A Mark III Astra. Fancy that. The Astra F, a proper 90s car, designed as the Opel Kadett in the early 90s, all the way to the end of the 90s, where they replaced it with one that looks a bit less like a toy car. Strange. Never thought of this before, but it does look a bit like it's come out of a small box. I remember when these cars were new, and they just looked so modern and curvy and just really nice and smooth. Now it looks a bit like a big jelly. Things I think when I look at this car. Well, how about police? The police used to use them. The bill, yeah, the program. The program that was on the television that was basically a play after play. They had these because it was a program about the police, wasn't it? It still has something a bit modern looking about it. The rear lamps look like Labrador's ears, and it just has a really, oh, I'll tell you what, this bit here, this it needs a bit of rust taking off and everything, but it's that same flat arch that they had on the Mark II Astra that kind of looks a bit French somehow. Maybe it's because many French cars had these arches that started to cover up the wheel. Aerodynamic reasons? Probably. Now, back to the back and the Labrador ear idea. Just look at it. Just look. Think of a Labrador's ears and you will see these rear lamps, or the other way round. If you don't see it, it doesn't matter. It's just one of those observations. The trouble is, when I start thinking like that, I find all sorts of little things to point out that no one's really going to agree with, so I'm not going to tell you what I'm thinking about with the front lights. It's smooth, it's nice, it's like a big bar of soap. But also, this looks like the kind of car that you'd imagine to be hundreds and thousands still knocking around, but actually no. But believe it or not, in this colour, with this engine, it's actually really rather rare. Vauxhall, you know that bit. Astra, you know that bit. 1.7 turbo diesel. It's the 1.7 turbo diesel engine that makes it rare in this colour. That is the Isuzu engine, which is commonly known as one of the best, most durable engines you can ever have. It's funny that, isn't it? All of the old cars seem to have engines that are prepared to go on forever and ever. Underneath the bonnet is where we find the engine, and this is the 82 brake horsepower engine. It's the same engine of propulsion that got this car from its home to the yard. And look, turbo. It says so there, turbo. That means that somewhere on here there will be a turbo, making that horsepower 82 rather than probably 58 or something. There it is, found it. We can expect that this isn't going to be rapid, but there are more important things than being fast, as we know. And those more important things are reliability. And that is where this car wins. You see, a modern turbo diesel engine will be rapid right up until the point where you go 1 mile over its service interval, and then it'll give up on you and it's your own fault. Oh, good sound. On sounds then, we may as well move on to the most important part of any car review, and that is the door shut sounds. The door that gets used the most often. Every case, it can't really be, in some cars it doesn't get used as often as others, although possibly a mini cab. Yeah, mini cabs, when the driver just sits in the car and never gets out. Right, that's a distraction. So what does this sound like? Well, it would sound a bit less flabby if the window was up, but I'm not putting the window up just for door shut sound. Come on, how about the rear? That sounds exactly the same. How's that possible? Like most hatchbacks, this has a hatchback, and we open it by sticking our thumb there and just putting 2 fingers into that little hole there and then lifting it up. We have the boot, which is reasonably proportioned. Actually, yeah, quite a big boot. Looks like there might be something missing off there actually. One thing that's very important with any car is a door that opens up so you can get inside. Now if I'm going to drive this, I might have to move that back a little bit, like that. And the joy of the old Astra. Now maybe it's just the air freshener in this one, but they all seem to smell like this, sort of distant pine. The purpose of the Astra is to function rather than be glamorous. So we see we have electric window switches and a door pull, which is really hard plastic. Nice and solid though. The dashboard, actually rather solid indeed. It's rather good. In the middle of here we have the instrument binnacle with 129,000 miles, and that's just the start. It'll do a lot more than that. Of course the quality of the materials isn't fantastic, but it still all works. It doesn't feel particularly exciting to use, but the most important bit is that it does, well, make itself available to use. What's that for? Ah, there's a switch for the ashtray. That's cool. The cars like this aren't supposed to blow you away with premium quality materials, but actually, do they need to do? No, they don't need to do. And I might have said this kind of thing before, but I prefer something that works properly than something that looks like it's going to work really well, but doesn't even bother to. That's a bit droopy. We can see bits of exposed metal through the door card there and bits there as well, because they weren't trying so hard to try and make it feel like a luxury car, because it's not. On occasion, it might be very, very useful for the driver of the car to get himself into the back and be comfortable. Now, what purpose could the driver of the car find himself in the need of the back? Well, I'll give you an example. If, say, this is your car and you get very, very drunk with your mate Kev down the pub and your wife wants to drive you home, but she's brought along her friend who's particularly nattery, and you think I'd be safer in the back. You would be, because there is enough room. And I've already adjusted this seat so it suits me. And the door's in the way so you can't tell. But look, I'm actually quite comfortable. And I'll be even more comfortable being as I've had about 6 pints of old speckled hen inside me. The other instance is, imagine you have this Astra and you go to the pub and you forget to ring your wife up and you accidentally start driving it back home. And you're in the 90s and the police come along and take your car off you. And they just happen to have an Astra as well. So you'll know that whilst you're being arrested and taken to the station, you'll be comfortable. And that's important. Take it for a drive. Now, one thing this car doesn't have, and you wouldn't expect, is power. Yes, it's very just laid back. Used to driving so much more modern cars with perkier engines that need that little bit more fuel to get them to go. I know this will probably do about 60 miles per gallon without even trying. It doesn't really have a great deal of toys in this. It's got front electric windows. The passenger only works from the passenger switch, which is fine because the car's narrow enough for me to be able to lean over and operate the switch. One of the great things about these old diesels like this is you can run them on pretty much anything. Vegetable oil, of course. You go to your local Chinese and say, could I have all of your leftover oil, please? And they'll say, yes, you can. We don't even want any money for it. Why would you want such a thing? Oh, just for some innocent little experiment I have on the go. Thank you very much. A more modern diesel engine won't really tolerate it because the injectors get blocked. But the old things like this, not fussy. You know, chip oil, lard, candles, old newspapers, I don't know. Obviously there's a limit to it because it has to be liquid for a start. It has to be oil based, and you have to be able to squeeze it through the little nozzle of the injector. Now, you might be able to tell that this isn't a fast car at all. It's not supposed to be. How does this car drive then? Well, first of all, let's talk about its performance. Yeah, there isn't really any, but it doesn't matter. What about the steering? The steering's okay. It does the job. It steers the car. It's quite, you know, I mean, it's not bad, but it's not exciting. It's not going to encourage you to do anything erratic and irresponsible, believe it or not. The gearbox is typically Vauxhall and just a bit on the... I don't really want to go in that gear. Yes, you do. That's the gear I'm choosing for you to go into. What, fourth? Yes, fourth. What, now? Yes, now. Please go into fourth gear. They're all the same. They're just a bit notchy. That's really it. The brakes are okay. I was warned. The brakes are a bit spongy. They just feel like any other car to me. I'm not keen on modern brakes where you just gently touch the pedal with your foot and it slams you through the windscreen for the pleasure. For the safety aspect, you need your head smacking that windscreen right now. That's what that's telling you. And I can tell you, I think that's wrong. Third gear, that's the diesel gear. And you know what? It picks up enough. It doesn't really need to be any faster than this. On the motorway, I bet this is perfect. I bet it just pulls along quite eagerly and just is happy to take you on your journey. Let's talk about something with this car really important, and that is, do I like it? And you know what, it's alright actually, I don't mind it. That's not exactly full of enthusiasm and praise, is it? But the thing is, it's not really doing anything to make me go, oh, this is rather excellent. Actually, the brakes are a bit spongy, come to think of it. They are a bit spongier than I thought they should be. With an old Vauxhall, you don't really expect to be excited whilst you drive, and I'm not. But I'm comfortable and I'm reasonably content. I think that's the limit of the expectations you can expect out of your expectations. If I was to draw an analogy between this car and a person, this car would be a dad. Yeah, a dad. But not the kind of modern day dad that we have now that changes nappies. No, the old kind that would go to work and come home still wearing the same cardigan. You know, with those big buttons that look like walnut whips. One of those kind of dads. It's a stereotype, I know. That's what it's all about. The kind of dad that comes in from work, not sure what he does, not sure what kind of work he actually does. In fact, when he gets fired, he's the kind of dad that doesn't even tell his family about it. He just carries on going to work. He comes home from work, sits in a chair and does nothing for the entire evening. That kind of dad is the one I'm thinking of. And what's making me think of that is, I would say, the steering. You see, whilst the gearbox is notchy, it's what I've come to expect, but the steering on this is just somewhat vague. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with the car or the chassis, and the car's just had a new MOT, so it's roadworthy, but it doesn't really feel... It's not the kind of car I'd want to chuck around, put it that way. In the same way as the dad that this car reminds me of, I wouldn't want to chuck him around either, because he'd be too heavy, and also he's probably asleep at the moment. But to conclude, I'm going to talk about something really positive with this car. And that is, as a entry-level retro car, this is really good, because it is old enough. It's nearly 30 years old. It's of that era where cars of this age are rare, but they work better than modern cars as far as actually being reliable is concerned. And it's okay. It's just pleasant enough, and you can bet it will take you anywhere you want. This car's not one for giving up. No. Just like Dad, he'll go to work whether he's ill or not, because that's his duty. And he'll never let you down.